Thank you, New York. Whoa. And let me thank the people of New York for sending Alexandria to the U.S. Congress. She is not only one of the great members of Congress, she is inspiring working people and young people all across the country. Thank you, New York. Now, everybody knows that a New York City mayor's race attracts a lot of attention. That's not new. It's the largest city in the country. You got 8 million people. Everybody is interested in what happens here. But this mayor's race, my friends, is different. It is not just the folks here in New York City who are paying attention. It's not just people all across our country who are watching this race. It is not just the President of the United States who seems to be very, very concerned about who wins this election. The truth is that people all over the world are paying attention to what will happen here a week from Tuesday. Now, why is that? Why has this campaign created such an unbelievable amount of interest, literally all over the world? And the answer is obvious. These are not normal times. This is not a normal election. This election takes place at a moment in American history when we have a rigged economy with more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had in the history of our country. This election takes place at a time when the wealthiest people in America have never, ever had it so good, while 60% of people in our country are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to pay their rent or mortgage, struggling to afford child care or higher education for their kids, struggling to afford health care, struggling to afford decent quality food, struggling how to figure out how they will retire with some shred of dignity after working their entire lives. This election takes place when the United States of America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, has one of the highest rates of childhood poverty and senior poverty of almost any nation. And when in this rich country, 800,000 Americans, including many veterans, are homeless. This election takes place at a time when we have a president who has given $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1%, has given $900 billion in tax breaks to the largest corporations in our country. And to pay for those tax breaks, he is throwing 15 million Americans off the health care they have by slashing Medicaid. And in addition, He is forcing over 20 million Americans to see a doubling in their health care premiums. This election is taking place when we have an administration in Washington which every day is moving us toward an authoritarian society, undermining our Constitution and the rule of law. This election is taking place when we have a corrupt campaign finance system which allows billionaires in both political parties to select the candidates they want and to buy elections. Ordinary Americans get one vote. You get one vote. Meanwhile, billionaires get the opportunity to spend as much as they want to elect the candidates they want. That is the context in which this election is taking place. That is why this election is so enormously important, and that is why Zohran Mamdani must become the next mayor of New York. New York must have a mayor who represents the working families of this city, not the billionaire class. The reason why this campaign has generated so much interest around the world and so much excitement is that people want to know the answer to one very simple question, and that is, in the year 2025, when the people on top have never, ever had so much economic and political power, is it possible for ordinary people, for working class people, to come together and defeat those oligarchs? You're damn right we can. And let me tell you something else. At a moment when Americans are extremely distressed about where we are as a nation, economically and politically, a victory here in New York will give hope and inspiration to people throughout our country and throughout the world. That is what this election is about. And that is why Donald Trump is paying attention to this election. Ordinary people, working class people, black and white and Latino, Asian, gay and straight, coming together to take on the oligarchy. That is Trump's worst nightmare. And what Trump and his oligarchic friends know, that if New Yorkers come together and elect Zohran, we can do that from California to Maine. We can defeat the oligarchy. And what the oligarchs fear, what they fear is that people will start understanding that this country belongs to us, not them. And all over the country, when people are inspired, when people are standing up to power, they will ask some very simple questions. Why are we in the United States the only major country not to guarantee health care to all as a human right? Why aren't we paying our teachers the salaries they deserve? So that we can have the best public educational system in the world. Why aren't we doing what used to exist in New York and all over this country 70 years ago? Make public colleges and universities tuition-free. Why in the richest country on earth aren't we ending homelessness and building 5 million units of low-income and affordable housing? Why don't we make it easier for workers to join unions? And why don't we raise the national minimum wage to a living wage? And when so many of our seniors are struggling to cover their basic needs, some 22% of seniors in America are trying to survive on $15,000 a year less. Why aren't we raising Social Security benefits and providing pensions to the workers in this country who desperately need them? And why don't we have a foreign policy which does not spend billions of dollars on a Netanyahu government starving children in Gaza? In other words, my friends, a victory for Zohran will help Americans understand that in the richest country in the history of the world, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. Now, the oligarchs and the political establishment in New York tell us that Zohran's agenda for New York is radical. Really? At a time when working families in this city are finding it hard to live here because of the outrageously high cost of housing, I don't think it's radical to say that the city should freeze the rent and triple its stock of affordable housing. That ain't radical. At a time when working families can't afford the high cost of childcare, and psychologists tell us the most important years of human development, intellectual and emotional, are 0 through 4, why shouldn't we have a situation where every child in America gets the best quality child care we can provide? That ain't radical. Taking care of our kids is not radical. At a time when getting to work is too expensive and we want to encourage more utilization of public transportation, it is not a radical idea to say that buses in this city should be free and fast. At a time when every parent wants their kids eating good quality food, not junk food, and there are neighborhoods in this city where it is simply not affordable or possible to get that food, it is not a radical idea to say that there should be municipally funded grocery stores. And by the way, when billionaires and large corporations and the very wealthy are doing extraordinarily well, when the very richest people in this country often pay an effective tax rate lower than truck drivers or nurses. It is not a radical idea to say that the rich should start paying their fair share of taxes. Brothers and sisters, these ideas are not radical. They are common sense, and they are what the people of New York City want and need. Now, let me be very clear. As someone who served as mayor of Burlington, Vermont for 8 years, a city just a little bit smaller than New York, I can tell you absolutely that being mayor is not an easy job. In local government, the people hold you accountable for everything, for picking up the trash, for crime problems, for the quality of education their kids receive, for traffic jams. Blame the mayor. And that's what mayors have to deal with. And it is not easy. Zohran Mamdani, as mayor, is not going to have all the answers. The problems facing this country and every other major city in America are, in fact, enormous. So let me say this to you from the bottom of my heart. When he is elected, your job is not over. Zohran is going to need your help every single day. In this unprecedented moment in our nation's history, all of us together must act in an unprecedented way. And that means governing New York City and other cities in an unprecedented way. Please do everything you can to work with Zohran in order to make him and his administration the best administration in the history of New York. Let me conclude by saying this, and I say this again as somebody who became mayor of Burlington, Vermont in 1981 by winning that election by 10 votes after a recount. Now, I have looked at the polls here in New York. You have seen it. And the polls suggest that Zohran is in the lead, and that is great. But please, 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 do not underestimate our opponents. They have a huge amount of money, and they are spending it right now. So I urge you, forget about the polls. Go into the last 8 days of this election assuming that you are 5 points behind. So what you guys are going to have to do, along with the other 80,000 volunteers in the Mamdani campaign, you've got to do everything that you can to bring people to the polls in early voting, which is taking place right now, and on Election Day. None of us want to wake up the day after the election and find that we lost that election because our opponents outworked us. That must not happen. Brothers and sisters, a year ago, very few people in New York knew about a 33-year-old assemblyman named Zohran Mamdani. And when he first entered this race for mayor, he was polling at all of 1%. Nobody knew who this guy was. But Zohran did what people who are serious about real change always do. He created a campaign from the bottom on up by building an extraordinary and unprecedented grassroots movement which now has tens of thousands of volunteers. Unlike his opponents, he didn't go running to the billionaires for campaign contributions. He went to the people with an agenda that made sense to them. And despite being outspent 4-1, Zohran won the primary. And brothers and sisters, with your help over the next 8 days, this young man is going to make American history. It is my honor to introduce the next mayor of the city of New York, Zohran Mamdani.